Hello, everyone, and welcome to enVision Together, going to our next level best. I am so excited because we have a wonderful guest for you today. And first, we're going to have her go ahead and introduce herself in her own way. Her name is Kim Rahir, and go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself. So pleased to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pamela. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Kim. I'm a now 61-year-old German, and I live in Madrid, Spain, which is a beautiful place to be, much
You don't look
sunnier than.
61.
Oh, thank you so much. Um, I work as a health coach. I help women in their 50s and beyond to feel awesome, strong, drop some weight,
Mhm.
especially build some muscle. That's my big passion. I also love lifting heavy things over my head, and I even started competing in that at the tender age of 55. I have three amazing, wonderful kids who give me so much purpose and joy. And a husband who's from France. So we're a very international family. That's also why we're living neither in France nor in Germany, but in another place. Um, and I love reading books. And I also love opera and listening to like dramatic areas when I have the time.
Wow, you're so well-rounded. And you enjoy a lot of things that I enjoy. I'm an author, so of course I love books too. And the opera is something that I've been exposed to, but I would love to have more opportunity to enjoy it. So I look forward to doing that in recent years, years to come, and so on. But thanks for telling us so much about yourself. But I want to go a little bit deeper.
Of course.
Um, this gives us a sense of who you are today, but I think it's so wonderful also for us to engage and kind of know a little more about you in terms of even your background and upbringing. Can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood and things that you were exposed to, and even things that may have given shape to who you are today?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I was born in the north of Germany,
Hmm.
in 1963, which, when you fill in these forms nowadays, you have to scroll back so far. It's a bit scary, but that's what it is. I have an older brother, and I quite liked school, actually. Loved that. Uh, I was pretty smart. Yeah. We're not supposed to brag, but I had never had any trouble
It's
in
okay.
school. I kind of breezed through it, skipped grades at some point.
Wow.
Um, and I loved going to the gym, it wasn't a gym at the time. It was clubs where you knew everybody and you had someone looking after you. And I did a bit of gymnastics as a kid,
Mm.
which I really loved. And then at some point, um,
How old were
I
you when you
decided
started gymnastics?
I was 9 years
Okay,
old.
nice.
And then at some point, I also played volleyball. I like to try stuff, so I tried all sorts of things. Um, and not necessarily in a way like, some people describe themselves as butterflies hopping from one flower to the next. No, when I start something and then I take it very seriously and I do it, and I only stop for a good reason. And in that case, the reason was I left home and went to uni, studied political science.
Mm.
I enjoyed that very much too. And then I became a journalist. I lived in a town that was like 400 kilometers. I don't know what's that in miles, maybe like 200 something from my home. And I built my life there. I had a really nice job at a news agency, which is like very fast paced.
Hmm.
And somehow it fit me like a glove because you had to be fast. You have to make fast decisions like, is this story relevant or isn't it? But you cannot be superficial either. As a news agency, the newspapers and televisions rely on us to have the correct background information. So it's like this mix of, be precise, be
Hmm.
like you really have the necessary depth, but also the necessary speed that it takes to
Hmm.
to get the story out. So I
Hmm.
thrived in that. It's there also that I met my husband, and we decided to get married, and I followed him to the Middle East, where he was a, journalist too, and I started freelancing. And then I started having kids and had a total of three. The first one was born in Dubai, and then the next two were born in Vienna, in Austria. We were always moving.
Wow.
And that shapes you in a way, because what I noticed, I think I could have led a sedentary life too, like stay put somewhere, because I
Mm-hmm.
have strong roots and feel very connected to the region where I come from and the people where I come from. But when you move around that much, wherever you are very much aware, you're acutely aware that this is temporary. When you're
Mm.
always in the same place, you don't get that awareness so much because things are like a given. When you move around, there's no given. You are really aware that we always had 4 years. That was it.
Wow.
And it makes for you to stuff that doesn't work the way you want or that you don't like in a place. You say it's not a problem. It's only for a short time.
Mm.
And things that you really do enjoy, you say, okay, I'm going to make the most of this because I know
Right.
this is not going to last. So it's helped me sort of live more in the present. And then, of
Mm.
course, when I ran into health troubles, I really had to focus on mindfulness and living in the moment just to, keep my mental health. But that's a different story. We're going to get into that. So we
I'm
kept
so
moving
glad. I
around.
have to say, I'm glad to hear your perspective about that. It's an interesting way that you've arrived to that epiphany or revelation, if you will, to not focus on the difficult things too much, but to take advantage of experiencing the beautiful things. Uh, it was actually beautiful to me to hear you explain it in the way that you learned that. Hmm.
Thank you so much. That's so lovely.
Hmm.
Um, So at some point, and that was now it's 10 years ago, we arrived in Spain. My husband managed to get more than the usual 4 years. He got to 6, which was amazing because Spain is a wonderful place.
Hmm. I've
And then he
been. Hmm.
retired. Then he retired and decided we both decided to stay here because we love it here.
Beautiful. It's some years since I've been to Spain. I've never been to the area where you live, but we had a beautiful visit, and certainly we want to go again. Um, Me and my family, we love to travel a lot. Not as much as you. Seem like you've done a lot of moving around. We've been to Dubai as well. But I
Yes.
think that's one of the most beautiful things in the world is to travel and see as many places as you can. I like to learn and observe people from different cultures and not just engage as a tourist, but try to get to know the place and the people and their
Yes.
customs and what do they consider as good food and great things to do in their home.
Yes.
Uh, it's great fun. Uh, but it's not just fun. I think it's part of a sound education, if that makes sense. Uh,
You know what? I think it's because it gives you perspective. And I think that's
exactly.
what it's very easy to lack these days because we seem to have the world at our fingertips. We just, uh, you know, type something on our phone and we can listen to the best singers in the world and watch the best athletes in the world and read the best writers in the world. But I think it lacks perspective. And
Hmm.
it
It's
even
so true.
goes down to this very physical thing that you travel, and I have now slowed down my travel whenever I can. I take a train rather than a plane because I
Hmm.
think that's the only way to really feel and understand, this place that
Hmm.
is our planet, and what a distance is compared to our small physical being. And it's the same with the cultural differences that you described. It gives you perspective. It makes you feel maybe a bit smaller or humbler.
Yes.
Um,
Humbler,
but
I'd certainly agree.
yes, but you can appreciate the richness of mankind in a much more intense way, and that's what's so great about this.
Agreed, agreed. Wow, I really enjoyed this was actually all your introduction.
Oh, wow.
I've enjoyed this is probably it's certainly one of my most enjoyable introductions. And I think it's nice too because it allows us to really get to know each other more, but for the audience to get to know us and more specifically you before we get into talking about you as a coach and all the things we're about to get into now. So what a nice way to now kind of segue to the next thing. So I do have these set of questions for you, and and this is where we're gonna learn about you as a coach. So first of all, just tell us your story. How did you go from wheelchair to becoming a European Masters in weightlifting champion and all of this? I mean, I think we have a little bit of a clue because it seems to me, as I listen to your introduction and you tell us about yourself, you've been athletic your whole life.
Yeah, I started moving very early on. That's very true. And I think this is one of the biggest gifts that you can give your kids, that they build movement into their lives, because the humans need to move to be healthy.
Yes,
And because of the way our world is built, some people have to sort of force themselves to move these days, or fight for their right to move these days, or they
it's
get it
true.
prescribed by a doctor. And that's much harder than when it's something that you've been used to do. So, yeah, I was working happily as a journalist. And I mean, I loved like the gym and sports and everything, but I never thought of making it a career. But we had just moved to Germany when I was about 45, and I had reached what I thought was like the pinnacle of everything I'd ever aspired to. I'd had a full-time job as a journalist with a news agency again after freelancing for quite some time by
Mhm.
accompanying my husband, having my kids. So I was sort of back in the game. I had my three kids. We lived in a beautiful house. Everything, looked great on the outside, I'm going to say, because I think it took a lot out of me,
Mm,
to run and manage all this and to achieve this. And it's something that I think I didn't really acknowledge at the time. It was actually quite stressful. And then from one day to the next, at first I had a little bit of a flu, and then from the next day when I picked my kids up from school, I realized that I was seeing double.
mm.
So something was wrong, and it was like literally from one day to the next. And I
Wow.
was sent to hospital, and I was going to stay there for 6 weeks. They did all kinds of checks on me. They were not quite clear. They knew it was somehow autoimmune, but not exactly what. After 3 weeks, I was completely paralyzed from the hips
Oh my.
downwards. I was there in a hospital bed, and like from one day to the next, my life had been kind of taken away from me, actually.
Mm,
And I'm going to be very honest. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I'm so grateful for this experience
mm,
today,
mm,
because it's, again, it changed my perspective.
mhm,
All the stuff that internally was complaining about in my everyday life, like having this full-time job and with shift work and coming
mm,
home and looking after the kids' homework and making dinner, all these things. It was all, oh, do I have to do this? Oh, and I have to do that. Oh my
mhm.
God, this is too much. Oh, I'm tired. And there I was lying in the hospital bed, paralyzed. And I thought, what would I not give to be able to cook dinner now? What would I
Wow.
not give to be able to do my kids' homework with them?
Right.
This lesson has never left me.
Mm,
So I was released one day before Christmas, I think. I was in a wheelchair. I had to get back to walking very slowly. So it was autoimmune, and it was a something that they call a one-off. It's Guillain-Barré. It's a syndrome. Soldiers tend to get it. And maybe, there was a lesson in that too. Maybe I was soldiering on a little bit.
mhm,
Learn to walk again. I was so grateful. I had learned so much from this. I think I became a cooler mom. I would not get worked up about missed homework and stuff. I knew that there was more important things in the world.
Mhm.
But after another 2 years, I felt my left hand going numb, and I knew something was wrong again. And I got checkups again, and they told me this time it was different. This time was not a one-off. This time I actually had multiple sclerosis. And I
Mm.
thought, oh my God, what a low
Yes.
blow. Because
Yes.
when I had recovered from the first one, I was on top of the world. I felt like I get a second shot at life. I can do everything again, but better and differently with a new perspective, with this new one sort of gratefulness just for, being able to walk and things like this. And then they cut me down again with that diagnosis. And that was a very, very dark time. It was also December, so it was
Mm.
literally dark and it was dark in my soul. And that's when I realized like two things. First of all, I just needed to focus really on the moment even more radically
Mhm.
because that it's an illness where you do not know where you're going. And if you start traveling in your mind to all the horrible places you could end up, you're going to just be scared and not live the life that you have right now. And at the time, I had this diagnosis, but I could walk, I could move normally. I have my left hand is still numb to this day, but that's about it. So I decided I was just going to live each day, spend as much time with my kids as possible and really enjoy and make the most out of that. And I think that helped me through these first dark
Mhm.
weeks. And then I also decided that I was going back to the gym. When you have these things, doctors say, yeah, gently, carefully. Da, da, da. And I decided I was going back to the gym and I was going to train for strength for real.
Mhm.
Because, I had been to the gym before, but like many women where, you would like to shape your body in a certain
Oh
way and
yeah.
you do it like, yeah, we want to be fit and, it's something you should do. And this time I had this single focus to become insanely strong.
Mhm.
And I think it also goes back to the hospital. When you're paralyzed in hospital, you feel totally dehumanized because you can't do anything.
Mhm.
You're not deciding anything. And the idea that I could have a strong, reliable body that would sort of carry me through everything was very, very attractive. And I thought, no, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get strong, just as
Yeah.
strong as I can. And that's what I did. And the most amazing thing happened. I got better, like even from the illness reflexes that you lost, that the nerves weren't
Yes.
functioning, it all came back. But the most extraordinary thing, and that's something that I do with my clients today, and that they experience, and it's like so it happens all the time. Is after just a few weeks, you feel amazing.
Mm.
It's your mental health that takes like really off when you do this kind of training.
Mhm.
And I experienced this. I did this like from a gut feeling, and I just experienced it like this and thought, wow, this is amazing. But now we have tons of research on that too. Humans have found out that this is actually the case. There are some neural circuits that sort of get connected with this. Um, and I think, in my mind, the biggest thing about this strength training effect is that when you lift weights, you overcome resistance. So you
Mm.
plant it in your mind that, yes, I can overcome resistance. And your brain, it is not like going to say, yeah, I can lift a barbell. It's going to have this overall notion of resistance is something that you can overcome.
Mhm.
So it carries over to other parts of your life. And I was very much brought up in this spirit. When something went wrong, my parents would go, who did this? Why did this happen? And I totally let go of that. And I think this
Mm.
is also something that strength training teaches you. I only say, okay, what can we do now?
Mm.
And I think that's so liberating, and it's so
Yes.
much more useful.
Yes.
So when I got so much better, I felt that I was onto something, and I thought maybe I should share this, uh, and started studying for being a health coach, did all the certificates and exams and what have you. It still took a while for me to take the plunge because, to change your career is not something that you do like this. But at some point, I said, no. Oh, I remember when that was. We moved to Spain. I found myself a neurologist because you need at least follow-ups and stuff. And when he saw me after 3 years, he said, how about stopping your treatment? Because I was getting
Mm.
treatment.
Mm.
And I said, oh, that's amazing. Yes, please. And that's when I thought, okay, if I can get from, injecting myself 3 times a week to not having anything, then I really have something to share. And so I said, yeah, such a gift, go
That's
and share it.
wonderful.
And I took the plunge.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. Um, and that's led you to now be a coach for others
Yes,
through your own personal experience and then taking it upon yourself to further your knowledge through research. You've essentially become an expert to help others.
absolutely. And, that's a difficult path, because as humans, we always have these inner thoughts, this voice that says, who are you, to tell
Mm,
other people what to do?
absolutely.
But I felt so driven to doing this, and I've been doing this for 7 years now.
Mm,
And when you then see that it actually works, that you can change lives, that women who felt exhausted and unmotivated and
mhm,
heavy and overwrought, they, after just a few weeks of training, say, oh my God, I feel so energized. I can't believe it. And oh, I can feel my muscles. Or, oh, I carried this crate of apple juice and it didn't weigh anything. Then you know that, first of all, yes, who are you? You are the one who helps other women. And that's
right.
it. And
You
it's
know,
also,
I'm glad that you touched on this area from your perspective, but also with the women that you've worked with. Because my next question was going to be, um, talk to us about the mental health around it when you get the devastating news. I know you've touched on it a bit, but if you could go deeper about, first of all, you just seem like such an almost naturally optimistic person. Um, and I love it. I mean, I actually have to admit that I'm not naturally that way. I practice that mindset, but I love hearing your perspective and your experiences. But can you tell us a little bit more about, I don't know, were there any moments when it seemed a little more devastating or w- clients that you've worked with that was their start, but through honestly listening to you in the short time that I have so far, I feel that you're a coach not just for the physical, but for the mental.
absolutely.
So, will you tell us a little more about those things?
Yes. Um, the thing is, and it's something that we tend to underestimate, is there's a strength coach, an American strength coach that I admire. His name is Dan John. He's very, very down to basics and make everything as simple as possible. And he says the body is one piece,
Mm,
and that includes our mind, that includes our emotions, our heart, everything. So this is where the problem starts actually for many women, when they think it's all about following a certain exercise regimen or it's all about eating in a certain way. And then you're going to be healthy and you're going to be better. But it's not about that. It's
mm,
actually about doing the thing.
Hmm.
How many women do you hear say, "Oh, I know exactly what to do. I'm just not doing it."
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's why we have to ask ourselves, why am I not doing it, or what needs to happen for me to be able to do this? And it's something that we so underestimate. So one of the first things that we talk about with the women I work with is resistance. Resistance is something that we never build into our plans.
Mm.
It's January 1st, we think, oh, we're going to be this person and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we never consider that there might be resistance. And the
Mm.
resistance comes not only from inside of us, it comes from inside of us because we deep down, we don't like change.
Right.
We might be uncomfortable where we are, but it's the devil you know. And if
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
change, what's going to happen? So
Right.
that's the first resistance that we will encounter. And we will also, and this is particularly true for women, we will encounter resistance around us.
Yes.
The way the world is built, the way our life is organized, the way our family, our friends have come to see us, to rely on us, to think of us as a certain type of person.
Hmm.
And that's resistance too. We just don't see it as such. We tend to think, oh, this is just my life. But it's resistance to you doing what you want to do or what you need to do.
Yes.
And you have to identify that and
Hmm.
then start working on it. And sometimes you need to work on that for quite some time before you even start an exercise regimen or anything.
Hmm.
Because there's no point in starting something that you do for 2 days and then you stop.
Huh. That makes sense.
And the same thing, there's a lot of shame and guilt that women carry when they are overweight or when they are out of shape.
Hmm.
And it's not easy to let go of that, but it's something that we need to really drop. And I
Hmm.
always say, whatever happened, whatever you did, where you are now, you are here for a reason, and you did the things that you did for a reason.
Hmm.
And the reason, because you did it for a reason, the reason is valid. There's
Hmm.
no should have or would have. If
Hmm.
you chose to look after your kids more than yourself, if you cared for an old parent instead of going to the gym, you made a valid choice. So
Hmm.
wherever, if you're now in a situation where you feel unhappy with your health or your body, you can actually tell yourself it's not your fault, because fault is a useless concept in my world. The only thing that you need to know that it's your responsibility
Hmm.
to change things moving forward, and always ask, what can I do now? Don't look
Hmm.
back. No shame, no guilt, no
Yes.
why did this happen? Oh my God, why did I do this? Oh, I am so useless. Forget all about that. We are here, and what is it that you can do next? What is it
Hmm.
that you can do right now in this very
Yeah.
moment? Maybe you can, go have a glass of water or walk around the block, but
Hmm.
what can I do now? Forget all the guilt and the shame.
That's great. That's really good. Um, so why would you say building muscle is so crucial to women's uh, health in midlife in particular?
It's quite obvious and it's a bit brutal, but we do lose muscle mass as we age. It starts when we're around 35. When we're 35, that's the sort of the maximum that we can achieve,
Mm.
like without doing anything. And it goes downhill from there.
Mm.
It really um, shrinks. And muscle is much more than, just something that you see on bodybuilders. And so, it's supposed to be somehow cool or impressive. Muscle is actually the organ of longevity. It makes everything in your body function better. And because women lose muscle mass at a quite preoccupying rate.
Mm.
And because, and this is a cultural aspect of this, we are not raised or educated to think of physical strength as a virtue. It's not nowhere, and in the list of stuff that we learn as girls, and at
Yeah.
least in my generation, I
Yeah.
hope this is going to change.
Mhm.
Being strong, muscular, physically strong was never there. You know, supposed to be pretty, very slim, elegant, maybe educated, but
Mhm.
strong was nowhere there. So
Right.
that makes it more difficult for midlife women to embrace this
Mm.
concept because
I
it
see.
creates fear. Like, oh my God, how am I going to look? You know, you're going
It
to look
goes back
absolutely
to that.
fantastic.
It goes back to that idea of change that you were talking about earlier. So it's a different mental process, even just to get ready for it later in life, but not impossible.
That's something we've known since there was a study they did in old people's homes in the 70s, I think. You can build muscle in your 90s. You can build strength in your 90s. That function in the body, it doesn't change. And
Mm,
I think this is also something that midlife women tend to overlook. And I can totally feel this. And because especially when I was sick and I was kind of helpless, it's like you feel, oh my God, it's too late.
mm,
When you're beyond 50, you know that, at least half of your life is over. And we have this linear thinking in our brain. So we sort of thinking, oh my God, it's downhill from here. So what's going to happen? And it's really important to know it's never too late.
mhm.
And this is also a very important aspect that I emphasize in my work. It's never too late, but you have to start where you are.
Yeah.
Our body has a history, and if we just download some like hardcore program from YouTube, it might not work for us. Or we
Mhm,
could think, oh, I'm in my 50s, I must do something gentle and start Pilates or something like this when we might actually be physically in shape to do something more vigorous. We have to
mhm,
start where we are, and that can then take us to incredible heights.
mhm. Wonderful. So, what are some of the health benefits of working out or building strength that's not just about physical? Um, Tell us a little bit about that. And also give us an example of a transformation that you've seen in a woman that is like a testimonial, if you will, that you love to share. So
Yes,
amazing.
absolutely. Yes. So, um, most women nowadays know that you need muscle also to protect your bones. When you strengthen your muscle, you strengthen your bones, and falls and breaks are a big health risk um, as we age. Muscle mass will also improve your metabolic health. It's absolutely crazy. Many people don't know this.
Mm,
Your body can store sugar in two places, in your liver and in your muscles.
mm,
So if you have decent muscle mass, you have your sort of blood sugar management system built into your body. You don't have to worry about insulin resistance or being pre-diabetic or anything. If you
mm,
have good muscle, that will take care of this. It will take care of your blood sugar system. It's also quite important for cardiovascular health, which is
mm,
totally, I mean, you wouldn't believe it because people always think there's like cardio
mm,
and there's strength, but it all
mhm,
ties in together. Because nothing but the muscle contraction, for example, helps the blood pumping through the body. But there's many more things to the cardiovascular health aspect. I just don't want to get too nerdy here.
mhm.
And I mentioned the mental health, and study after study after study shows that strength training improves all symptoms of mental health, like uh, you know, low motivation,
Mm,
even depression or self-confidence. It all improves with that.
wow.
And it's a bit tricky because somebody who's depressed, like who suffers from a depression, the last thing they want to hear is, oh, you just have to exercise. So there's something where we have to find a way to help people who suffer from those mental health symptoms to start moving in a way that's possible for them. So if we just
Hmm.
say, oh, you're only depressed because you're not exercising, then, we make it worse and it's going to create shame and guilt again. So there's still ways that we have to learn, how to make this accessible to everyone.
Hmm.
Now, my favorite transformation, and I'm going to try not to well up here.
Oh.
I had a woman come to me, and I think she was 69 when she joined me. She'd had a hysterectomy like a year before, and she could hardly move. She had to use a walking stick when she got out of bed. She felt always stiff, always in pain.
Mm.
And she thought that was it. You know, she was like, you're 69, and how is this ever going to change?
Mm.
Of course, because she couldn't move properly, she had gained a bit of weight too. And it took us about 2 years. So it's not your average quick fix, but we
Hmm.
started with very, very gentle reactivation exercises. And this is also something that we underestimate. When we don't move or use our muscles regularly, the brain tends to put them offline. So
Mm.
the important thing, the connection between your central nervous system and the muscle for a quality contraction that actually works, sort of falls asleep. And then stuff that was totally normal for you to do, all of a sudden you feel you can't do it anymore. It doesn't work, it feel right, it doesn't work properly. So we started by reactivating very simple movements and then worked our way up from there to more vigorous calisthenics. Then at some point, we started introducing walks, which were possible again. And then after like a year and something, getting up to 10,000 steps a day, which was absolutely
Wow.
unthinkable when we started together.
Wow.
And then after 2 years, this lady fulfilled the dream that she'd had because she went horse riding again. She was an avid
Oh.
horse rider and she thought that was gone
Oh.
forever. And she felt so much better, so much more mobile and agile and stronger that she went on a horse ride. And
Mm.
that was so emotional. And I think this is something that we have to remember. Yes, I help women lose weight, and they want to wear their clothes again, and we do that. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it's about quality of life. About
Hmm.
quality of life. That's what you want to focus on. And this is also what will give you so much more motivation and purpose. If you
Hmm.
think, oh, I want to wear that dress, hmm, is that going to really get you up in the morning? Or if you think I want to do all these wonderful things that I can still do on this planet Earth, and I need to be in shape for that, that's
Hmm.
a much better driver.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Wow, that is a touching story and such a great example because I do like that you while you seem to have or give some value to the fact that yeah, people may want to just lose weight to fit a dress that they can no longer wear. Um, I like the fact that you attach it to even a higher purpose, if you will. Um, and I really think that that within itself, like I would imagine that if you're working with someone and their goal is, I want to lose it to get in this dress, that by working with you, just again, what I'm getting from you, you would help them explore even what getting back into that dress really means.
Yes.
Um, where is that all coming from? And
Yes.
kind of peeling away the layers to give it greater purpose. Maybe the dress is symbolizing a larger idea that's tucked away or hidden. And I'm getting all of that just by listening to you. So I think that's, mhm. It seemed
That's
like you're.
amazing. That's beautiful. And I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. And it's like when we start working together, uh, the first week we only spend on mindset work, actually,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find out why do I want to achieve this. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, every goal is valid. And if it's fitting into that dress, that's totally fine, just as you said. But you
Mm-hmm.
want to know why. And so many women tell me, when we sort of peel off those layers that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I I want to feel like myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very powerful because I know myself from, especially from the times when I was ill. Sometimes you feel that you lost your true self, because you were
Mm-hmm.
so busy doing so many things, busy
Mm-hmm.
living in a way
Mm-hmm.
that you think, what happened to that person?
Mm-hmm.
Where is she? And many women feel that way, that the busyness of life has sort of make them drift away from something that's still deep inside them, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise they wouldn't remember, but that they
Mm-hmm.
want to set free and rediscover.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, sometimes I think so many women have like an old pair of jeans in their closet that they would love to wear again.
We all do.
I have one client right now who has a pair of corduroy trousers that she's working on fitting into again. And yeah, of course, it's not about the pants. It's about the feeling that you had every day, or that you had
Yeah.
when you wore those. And
Mm-hmm.
and it really, I not only does it help, I think it's necessary to dig down to that feeling and awaken it, because that will then help you do
Mm-hmm.
the things that you need to do.
And the feeling is not always just how I felt physically, like I felt physically healthier. I think we're also trying to get to that mental healthiness that we felt in a different space in our life before so many weights, because I believe that the weights on the outside of us precedes the weight gaining, the physical weight gain. I think we go through life and we keep picking up burdens, if you will, that we never released, and we physically manifest the spiritual weights, if you will, that
Yes.
that we've taken on, the burdens that we've taken on just through life, like some of the things you've mentioned, being a caregiver to elderly parents, raising kids, along with juggling work demands and friend demands and all these things that, again, society tells us as women. I know men have their demands as well, but we can speak a little more specifically from the female perspective.
Absolutely.
All of those demands, all of those weights, and we just keep taking them on without realizing that now I'm carrying myself plus this other thing. Um, and then it actually kind of manifests in our physical being. And I think the same thing is true when we lose the weight. It's so much about connecting back to how I felt when I was physically smaller. What was my mental attitude? What was my mental strength? What burdens did I not have on my back at the time? And how can I get back to that place where I'm not carrying all this stuff?
Yes. And the problem is also that over time, it occupies a lot of space in your mind. Um, and in a way, not only you don't feel confident, you don't feel worthy. And
Mhm.
that's so toxic.
Mhm.
And I've spoken to many women who tell me when they walk into a room, the first thing they check is, am I the biggest woman in the room? Which
Wow.
it's heartbreaking.
Mhm.
It's like, your whole mind is occupied by this
Wow.
worry about your physical appearance.
Mm.
And it's a shame because yourself. You can't give what you have to give to the world because you hold yourself back and you occupy your mind with that worry. And this
Wow.
feeling that you mentioned is from before, is when, we walked into a room and just thought, oh, who is here and who can I talk to? And you were not sort of possessed by these thoughts on how you look and how ashamed you are and how other people might see you or not see you.
Mhm.
So it's not just about a few kilos or pounds with that
Yeah.
drop off. It's a whole operation on really quality of life. And
Yeah.
then something that I think we have to tell women over and over again, it's about you also being able to really give what you have to give to the world. Because when we're not
Mhm.
confident, we're holding it back, and the world needs what women have to give.
Do you know, just before you use that word give, I was looking at you and I was about to say something about how freely you give the information that you're sharing. I have interviewed a lot of people, and some of them are fitness coaches, some of them are coaches of different types, but sometimes you encounter a personality that you can sense from them that they're holding back some of their knowledge because they want people to buy what they do. And I am so not getting that from you. I feel like you're freely giving. And I think that when people sign up to work with you, they're just going to get more of the same. And I don't even find it necessary to ask you, will you tell us about a few of the steps or things that you take people through? I feel like you've shared so much that we have such a healthy understanding of who you are, what you offer, what you give, what you bring. Um, I don't feel that I need to try to dig into specific routines that you have people do or specific mental exercises that you have them do. But with that, I have to say this has been one of the most enjoyable conversations I've had with someone, and I mean it from the heart. And we are coming to a close of the show, but there's a couple of final questions that I always ask every guest. The first one is, it's hard to imagine this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Let's imagine that people listen to this whole episode and they forget everything we just said. What is the one gem, the one thing that you would say, but please hold on to this one thing?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think it's totally imaginable that people forget everything we just said because we're all so bombarded and overwhelmed with so much every day. So there's absolutely nothing bad in that. The one thing that I want every woman to hold on to is ask yourself only one question. What can I do now? What
What
can
can
I
I do
do
now?
now? Not what should other
Good.
people do? What would I like to do? What should I have done? Why am I here? Why has no? Just this one question. What can I do now? And no matter how small that is, this is also something you need to remember. It could be the tiniest, tiniest thing, but as long as it's something that you do right now, it's empowering and it's going to help you move forward.
I love that. And that was born out of your own experiences.
Yes,
I remember
absolutely.
you saying that. What can I do now? I love that. And it's so positive.
Yeah.
It immediately focuses you to something positive, even if it's just a small thing. What can I do now?
Yes.
Do that one thing, and it'll lead to and open doors to other possibilities. I love it. It's such a beautiful
Thank you.
seed planted. Um, and so the final question is, what do you want the audience to know about you and how they can get in touch with you and gain your help, your coaching, your services? Anything you want to share along those lines? This is the time to do it. We can also put some things in the show notes.
Yeah. So you can find me on my website, which is kimrahir.com. That's like my name.com. And then, yeah, you can read a little bit about my philosophy, and you can also take a strength and health assessment that is free. Um, and if you do so, I'll give you some ideas of, what you could do right now. I think that, I don't sell coaching programs from a shelf. I want to work with women that who I am right for and who are also right for me, because I think everyone has a person that can help them. And I'm not
Mhm.
that person for everyone, but for
Mhm.
some women I am. And then we do really wonderful things. So that's really important to understand. There's no, if you go to my website, you will find out things about me, but there's not, buy my 30-day, belly buster or my this. Um, it's just like the beginning of a conversation. That's how I
Mm.
see it, where we find out, you know, can we work together or not? And if we can't, I'm also happy to, refer to other colleagues or something. But I think it's really important, especially also for those women who are looking to get healthier, to understand that it's not like this magic program or exercise sequence or eating style that's going to do
Mhm.
it. It really is a process of understanding and of getting clarity,
Mhm.
and of getting help, from
Mhm.
someone that you trust and that can really help you. And you feel that this is a perfect fit. Everything else is going to be hard and not very effective.
Mhm.
So if you come to my website, you can also find my email on there. See it as the beginning of a conversation, and then we take it from there.
Wonderful. And I have to say, I mean, I've said it already, but this has been a delightful conversation. I didn't know that by talking to a fitness coach that I would feel so even nurtured, and your your positive qualities come through so much. And so for that, I'm deeply thankful and honored that you agreed to be a guest on my show. So thanks so much, Kim.
Thank you for having me. I really loved the conversation.
Thank you.